The Immortals of Melwa is the first book of the Shiva trilogy, which is written by Amish Tripathi. You might consider him as a huge author or writer, but he was nothing before this book came out. He was a banker. I mean, nothing in the writing sector. He had no experience. He didn't have all those materials things which was required for a writer, but he did go to so many publications, but every one of them rejected him because he had no experience and they couldn't take the risk. So he said, let's do it by myself. I'll do my own publications and I'll just go for it. And it became an overnight success. The Immortals of the Melua is his first book, written by him, and it was a craze in India because it was of Hindu triology. Hindu is the main religion in India, so the students and people of India would probably love to read about their god. And in this book, it is said one thing, that he wasn't a god by birth. It said his karma did it. Before that, he was just a human. So that was a very good point out there in the book. He cancelled the thought of Shiva being a god by birth, the destroyer of evil by birth. So he purely just snapped out the reality and just made him into a flesh and blood human. So, as every story, there should be a protagonist. A main man in which this book is written is name is Shiva. We know him as the god, but in this book, he's regarded as a human. So, in this, what is the character about Shiva is that he does not. He is the leader of his tribe in Mansarovar, and he sees that in his land there are too many pointless battles out there, so he shifts into Meluha, where he is considered as the god. When he drinks Somras, his throat becomes blue, and he's called a Nilkant, and he's considered as a god. But uh, Lord Shiva never thought he could be a god. Especially Ram was considered, he was considered to be like Ram, so he never thought that he could be the Lord. But what is more, that this character actually holds some connections, some great connections, like with his best friend, like his follower Nandi. So this character has too many connections. He has friends and he has enemies. So this character is actually uh, at first this character is not well defined. It says nothing about how he looked, what he used to be, what he is. But later on, as we get into the second and third book, it describes exactly what uh, Shiva thinks and what he will do in which situation. So my likings about this book is most probably the action scenes, because everything is explained so perfectly. Like it feels like you are watching a action movie right in front of it, in words, in books, in thoughts. So there's every little bit of information given, like how he sword the knife, how he blocked it, uh, what was the feeling going inside, how he injured his left arm, blood were coming out, and everything like that. And it was described so beautifully. The action scenes most probably was the best for me. Then there was for Shiva there was some quick change of relationships. So uh, in the first book you won't be able to find that most probably, but in the second and third book, like Shiva hated Nagas, and like he didn't like his own son because he was a gun, not because he was a Naga, but he killed his own like brother, Shiva's brother like guy named Raspati. So, but there was change of relationship. Like the Lord Shiva had always hated the Nagas, but suddenly when he found out that Sati had a sister and a son Naga, both of them were Nagas, he immediately followed them, and then the man that was leading them all, the main king of Meluha, where where Lord Shiva was recognized by Daksha, he changed sides to relationship after knowing about the Nagas, and he allied with the Nagas and not being allied with the Meluas. So there was quick change of relationship. Even Chandravanshis were on the sides, whereas Suryavanshis and Chandravanshis were not best friends out there. But from Suryavanshi, he went up to go with Chandravanshis Shiva. So there was some quick relationship change, which I really liked. And the next is the emotions of the character are also shown. And the first book, it's not clearly done, it's not clearly said about the emotions, like what he felt, what she felt. But in like second and third, you get better in it. There was more about the the uh, emotions of the character. You can feel it, you know some guys like pain, happiness. Probably there was not much of happiness because just they say they smiled, or like they burst out laughing. They were laughing, they were happy. So there wasn't much of like an happy state where it was described the most. It was probably the painful part, the sorrows, the tears were mostly described beautifully. So that was one of the main thing that I liked about. And it was also that it explained about the communities beautifully, like what were the Suryavanshis, what do they do, what are their rules, what are their laws, who are their gods, what is the main thing about Suryavanshis, the main logo, everything, the division, everything was described in like communities were described more properly. So it was uh, the explanation of the communities people were better were better in all of the books. Everything was described very in a very good manner. So some things that I do not like about this book is that it has many flaws. Not too many, but some flaws. Some flaws are that when the character is introduced to someone or it is seen in the book, it is just shown that he is just physical appearance and like what he thinks, that's it. Like someone said he has a muscular form, he had eyes, blue eyes, hair very long, or something like that, and he is very protective to his daughter like that. But it never unfolds what is beyond that. It doesn't say what history has that person gone through. Only special people, some very main characters are only said what was their history. Others are just said, yeah, he's this, he's that, he thinks this way, and that's it. So that's probably one of the main flaws there. And another is that it was an ancient time, but there were too many scientific words being used, even though it was like 1900 BC, and so many scientific words were used. I can't remember one right now, but there are so many used in there that it makes a little bit irritating. Like the scientists themselves says Sanskrit word, which is an ancient language, and then they speak out like the modern language, the words that we use right now, the scientific words, the Occident. I think the one word was Occident, and some things like that. That are, I think that was too scientific for that period, but still I think that can be okay because it was advanced anyways at that time. So in conclusion, I like to say that this is an overall good series, uh, but I will say that if you watch it before knowing who Shiva is, you should probably watch other myths of him, other things about Shiva, than jumping straight into it, because you won't understand how much importance Lord Shiva has. He is considered as a god, but in this you will just see that he is a human. He doesn't come out, with 8 arms and throw fireballs at you. He's still a human, but he's considered as a god. So overall, it is a good series. Uh, the author was amazing for his first time, because this series was the first 3 books were his first 3 books too. uh, and so it's an overall amazing book for you to read about who is interested in religion of Hindu. So that's it.